Okay, everyone, good evening and welcome to our imaging SIG. And I'd really like to extend a really warm welcome to Frank of SetiAstro. I really appreciate him taking the time to come and join us and talk about his contributions to PixInsight and also his new imaging application, SetiAstroPro. So, take it away, Frank.
Yeah. Hey everyone. Let me share my screen here. Yeah, I'm Frank Marek. I think most of you may know me just as SetiAstro. uh, and let's see here. All right. Can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm actually currently in New Orleans. But before out when I just got out of high school, I joined the U.S. Navy. So I was a Navy nuke electrician on USS Florida submarine. Did 8.5 years doing that, and then so always had a passion for science and math and physics and stuff like that. Really couldn't see many stars under the water, right? So pretty much as soon as I got out of the Navy, I started astrophotography back in like 2010ish, and then I currently work in heavy electrical industry. We service really large electric motors and generators and a bunch of just mechanical stuff that kind of drives the modern world behind the scenes. And this was me up at the last solar eclipse that went through North America. I was out with the family doing that, so been really involved just in the hobby and family and work. And then I guess my whole start in this thing, I started a YouTube channel almost, yeah, I guess 2 years ago now, and I had people just give me some easy questions like how do I go about stretching? How do I stretch my stars? Things of that nature. And I was like, I should be able to automate this stuff in PixInsight. I'm a decently smart guy. I may not know how to code, but all these other people were starting to use Chat GPT to come up with just ridiculous, I don't know, scripts for a podcast or something. I was like, well, maybe I could actually use this thing for something better than that. So I really just started out asking it if it was familiar with PixInsight. Do you know you could write scripts in it? Do you know what the code base is? And really started just making a rapport with ChatGPT how to do anything scripting wise in PixInsight, and just kind of iteratively went through everything, trying code, it not working, going back to it, just on and on and on. Another really great tool I found was on the PixInsight forum. There was an introduction to scripting, a really great video by Robert Sartori that has some sample scripts and things like that. So I was like, I can use all this information um, and do something with it. So the very first thing I was really asked was about stretching stars. And in PixInsight, if you have PixInsight, all their file formats are XISF. And they have a whole specification written for XISF. And it being, like an actual image format. But importantly, in here, they have just a bunch of this kind of math stuff, but they define how they actually use their histogram stretch in here for their midtones transfer function. And then they define all these different variables and all this other stuff in here. But it was really this little midtone transfer function. It is when you have that histogram open and you grab that middle slider and move it left and right. That's what this equation's doing. And I knew how I would stretch a star. stars only image, I would just pull that slider down to about a quarter and just hit apply a couple times until I got my stars looking right. And I was like, I should be able to do this better. So I started with their mid-tone transfer function, and I knew I pulled the slider down to like a quarter. So you could put a quarter into the equation and just solve the equation, simplify it. And then I knew I would just repeat this process. So then I could take this new equation, put that in for X, put a quarter back in for what I moved the slider at, and simplify the equation down again and again. And the math nerd in me, can see these patterns pretty quick. I see 3, 9, 27. Okay, those are powers of 3. And then 2, 8, 26. Those are powers of 3 minus 1. So you could extend what I was doing recursively in just an analytic equation for any amount. And that's absolutely how I made my star stretch. If you've ever used my star stretch, this is the equation it uses. If you have a 5 in there, that means pulling the histogram down to a quarter and hitting apply 5 times. That's literally what the math is doing, just in one go. And that was my very first script, star stretch, and that was the math behind it. And I was thinking I could do the reverse of this as well too. Uh, at the time, there was GHS, which is a hyperbolic stretch to go from linear to nonlinear. There was like Easy's soft stretch. There's a couple stretching methods, and all of them seemed really arbitrary to me. Like it was all just user feel. There was no like actual solution to any of them. So I knew I could rearrange that equation I used for star stretch and directly solve for some median I want, right? We have the median of our linear image. I know the median I want to get to. I should be able to just solve for that stretch exactly. And that was the start of statistical stretch, where you just solve for X here. You get this really ugly equation with all these logs and stuff. But that's fine. That's what computers are for. We're not sitting there with slide rules or anything. Who cares how ugly it looks? Within the code, it is optimized a little bit, but that's what statistical stretch originally was designed to do, is take the median of your linear image and put it exactly where you told it to put it. And really that's all the more it's doing. There's some extra stuff in there about setting a black point and a few other niceties, but at the heart, that's what it was. It was just reversing that star stretch equation in order to give you an exact solution for a stretch. So there's no more guess, right? Whatever it felt like, it just did it for you. So those were kind of the two core scripts that kind of started the whole progression of me scripting in PixInsight. The next one that came about out of necessity, and I was telling Larry this before we started, is I was shooting with a 5-inch acro refractor, an Orion 120 ST, and I used it for, I considered it my narrowband secret weapon. So I used it for narrowband imaging, because the RGB out of it is just terrible. It's an acro, right? So the blue channel, the stars were always super bloated. I could never use RGB stars. So out of necessity, I needed to create a way of taking my narrowband stars and making RGB stars. So that's where the narrowband RGB star tool came about. And, everything just kind of seemed to progress pretty quick after that. I worked with a collaborator on this fine background. He had a brute force method of trying to find the background I saw on the forum. And I was like, we could be way smarter with this. And I introduced him to gradient descent, where in order to find like the background or the low points of your image, you can throw a whole bunch of like balls on your image, and the bright points are like high points on hills, and the dim points are like low points in the hills. and you literally just let the balls roll downhill until they all settle out in the low points, and then you could just choose the lowest points. And it's naively that's just kind of how that works. There's more to it than that, but using gradient descent, it's so fast to find it. Instead of checking every single pixel and and seeing if it's the lowest one, you could quickly find these patches of low area that necessarily avoids nebulosity and stars and halos and everything else. Um, Utilizing that idea, though, that was it was like a stepping stone. That allowed me to create Auto DBE, which is um, an automated dynamic background extraction, essentially. So there's tools like Graxpert, where it's going to remove your gradient based on AI modeling that tends to strip data out of your nebula and stuff pretty severely if you have it on a pretty aggressive mode. PixInsight had their gradient correction process, which is utterly terrible. I have a couple rant videos if you ever want to watch that, why you should never use that process. And I am a firm believer that manually placing points in something like DBE, or if you have Graxpert, manually placing your own points in there and having it do an RBF fit is the best way to truly remove the gradient in your image. But it's really clunky. It's hard to do. It's hard to do well. It may take you a couple tries. So I created Auto DBE to do all that for you. And instead of just trying to find the background, you put a bunch of balls on the image and let them all roll downhill. And then where they all settle in those low points in the image, those are the points you model for your whole background gradient to then remove. So in PixInsight, all those points that it's left with get fed into DBE, and then DBE does all the hard work for you. In my own SAS Pro, it's a little different because I don't have DBE. I had to pretty much invent all of it from the ground up there, but it still functions the same way. So it just that's really what I wanted for all my scripts in PixInsight. It was all things I needed to make my life easier too, and I figured a lot of other people would get a lot of good use out of it too. My freehand adaptive mask editor was another one. For whatever reason, they never created a good way of making a mask in PixInsight. There was no way to draw a mask in there, so I made one on how to do it. You could just freehand draw your mask and move forward with it. There was the game script, which is the Galaxy elliptical mask generator or whatever it's called, but that really is only ellipses. And then if you do want to try doing their multi-point squiggle line thing, man, that thing is a bear to use at best, and it just never works right. So again, kind of out of necessity, while I was in PixInsight, I made Fame, the freehand adaptive mask editor. And then some other fun ones were like What's in My Image, where we already know the RA and DEC of the points in your image. If it's solved, we should be able to use those points and pull data down from like Simbad and stuff, and tell you what's going on in your image, so you could explore it instead of just taking a pretty picture. Actually, get to know what's in your image and start digging down the rabbit hole of looking at all that cool science and stuff that you could actually find out about the stuff going on in your image. Just some other tools in there, like I got Halo Be Gone. Again, that was necessity out of trying to correct the halos on my acro refractor, but it's good. A lot of people use it because it does knock down some halos if you are seeing some halos in there. Another really popular one is Blemish Blaster. In PixInsight, there's no good content-aware tool to remove anything. They have a clone stamp. If you've used it, you know its limitations. You gotta find a patch of the image that you want to like substitute in the area you're clicking on, and a lot of the time you never get it right, and it's just ugly a lot of the time. So when I made Blemish Blaster, I decided that what it's going to do is it's going to draw a circle around the blemish, and then it's going to draw the 6 tangent circles around that, and then it's going to pick the 3 best circles, and then it's going to take pixel by pixel out of each of those 3 and take the median of those pixels and then paint that in. So like the leftmost center pixel out of each one, that's what it's going to sample and then paint that in there. And it's going to just build it up pixel by pixel by pixel. So it's going to use the content that's around that area to backfill that blemish, right? So it's not AI or anything like that. It's truly using surrounding content to fill in the blemish. And really the goal when you're removing like a blemish or something, it's more like, if given this image here, I think you would be hard pressed to tell me where the blemish was, right? That's really that's really the goal of it, because the content that you fill it in with should look like the surrounding stuff. So that was the big goal with Blemish Blaster, and I know a lot of people use that in PixInsight. So if you got PixInsight, you definitely should be using that. And then another fun one that came along a little more recently was the Perfect Palette Picker. A lot of the time for narrowband imaging, people get stuck in the same palettes they use every time. It's pretty much SHO or HOO, or maybe you'll get fancy and do a 4X every once in a while. But this kind of gives you all of them, so you can see, maybe you want to try something different. I can assure you, everybody's taken an image of the Eagle Nebula, right? There are all sorts of images. If you look up Eagle Nebula on AstroBin, there's tens of thousands of entries, right? So maybe you don't want to stick with the same palette everybody's been using. Try something new. Change it up out there, right? There's nothing wrong with trying some new palette that may look cool to you that others may not have looked and tried before, and it's going to help your image stand out amongst the crowd. Sometimes is just that different look. I know there's a user on my Discord who has utterly fallen in love with HSS palette and has done some amazing looking images with that now. And that's kind of his go-to palette now. And it's nice to see some of these new palettes going out there, because like I said, pretty much any target you're looking at, people have shot it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. You might as well look at something bold, something that may be outside the norm, and just going for it, right? It's this hobby is as much artistic, leeway as it is anything else. So that's a lot of my PixInsight stuff. You can find it. Oh no, this thing's in the way. Okay. You'll be able to find it under script SetiAstro. You do have to add it to your repository. And I'll get links and stuff over to Larry to send out after this. But so I got a link you could put into the repository thing, and then it'll update, and then you get all my scripts. There's a whole bunch of the ones I didn't cover in the little PowerPoint here. I have like a signature adder, frequency separation. Let's see what else. Star spikes, supernova asteroid hunter. There's a couple different ones in here. But even if you have PixInsight, over the last year, I've been working on SetiAstro Suite and SetiAstro Suite Pro now. And kind of the question is, you already have PixInsight. Should you just go ahead and get SetiAstro Suite Pro as well? And the answer is a resounding yes. First of all, it's free. Why wouldn't you get some free software if it's going to have some tools you may use, right? But besides that fact, there's just a bunch of stuff in SetiAstroPro that is not in PixInsight at all. So the blink comparator I have in there has really awesome graphical culling, which is nice. I did see an update that they finally put a subframe selector view in their weighted batch pre-processing, but it's still pretty clunky compared to the graphical culling that I have. If anybody's heard of image or MFD convolution, there was a white paper that came out, man, I want to say in November. And because I'm kind of a one-man show, I was able to take that and quickly implement it in SetiAstroPro. So if you ever wanted to try image out, you absolutely can in SetiAstroPro. And SetiAstroPro reads XISF files too. So you can absolutely use your already registered images from PixInsight and just dump them straight in there if you want to try it out. I have I think a superior wave scale HDR and dark extraction tools. I have a glimmer tool, which is an isophote galaxy modeler. It's really cool. What's in my image in SAS Pro is way more advanced than the one in PixInsight, mostly because PixInsight is severely limited in their scripting world. You can't do a whole lot. And in Python, it's pretty much whatever you can imagine you can get done. So the what's in my image we'll see here is just worlds beyond it. I have an exoplanet hunter. There's live stacking. There's layers. There's just so much stuff that's not in PixInsight. It's definitely worth grabbing SAS Pro just to use some of these other features. I know I have a number of PixInsight users that definitely use SAS Pro in my Discord just for this, just for their culling, where you could put everything into the blink comparator. You can grab these red bars and just drag them down and call your images this way. It flags them all for you. From the same view here, you can move all the flagged items to a different folder. You can delete the flagged items outright, which is something that I don't know why PixInsight hasn't done it. Like on their blink tool, you can't do anything with any of those files in there. You're like jotting them down on the side if one's bad or not to go to delete later. But that's all kind of just in SAS Pro. Like I said, there's MFD convolution, and it's definitely worth talking on a little bit. So MFD convolution is a completely new way of stacking. So there was a white paper that came out, like I said, like November timeframe, and we'll see if it opens. But it talks about this new way of stacking your data, and it's fundamentally completely different than how we currently stack. And it does essentially a median stack first, and then does all this guessing and checking by blurring the other images to see how to unblur it. So it takes a guess, compares it to the blurred image. If it's, the more correct it is, the more it knows how to undo that blur. And it kind of goes through this iterative process to actually do it. And because of that, you get a sharper image at the end than normal stacking. You'll also notice that you do get a bit more noise doing it this way. That's partly because there's actually no rejection in image So before you do image you really want to make sure that you've done cosmetic correction and things like that so you don't have hot pixels and you've done good calibration. But a little bit of extra noise for a sharper master stack is not a bad thing. Remember, if you take your image and blur the heck out of it and measure the SNR, your SNR will be so much higher than your original, noisier, sharper image. but it's all blurred. You lost the detail. So you get a lot of extra detail that's kind of in that noisier regime. And on the other side of it, we have so many methods to deal with noise now, right? There's Noise X. I have my own cosmic clarity denoise. There's Graxpert denoise. You could even just use old school TVG denoise and all those other ways to deal with noise. The thing that I think is kind of potentially lost on a lot of people is that this is a fundamentally new way to integrate images. For like 20 years, there's been the one way of doing it. It's just averaging all the pixels together, essentially. Yes, we've gotten a little fancier, rejecting some outliers, but at the end of the day, that's all you're doing. This is a fundamentally new and different way that's finally been handed down to us amateurs from the professionals since we finally have the computing power to do it. The It is a bit more computationally expensive, but pretty much everybody's computers are way more powerful than they were 20 years ago when the professionals started doing MFD convolution. So I think this is actually really exciting times. I think it's going to fundamentally change how we're going to stack going forward, especially once a bunch of smart people start actually breaking this thing down and tweaking it to do things like pixel rejection and things like that. It very much reminds me of the time when they handed down drizzling or Richardson-Lucy deconvolution from Hubble, where the amateurs, we had no idea how to do anything with that new method, and now everybody does deconvolution and drizzling, right? Like it's just part of our processing. So I think this is really exciting, and I was really excited to get it in SAS Pro. What I said with what's in my image, so I could do like 3D modeling now, where it takes redshift and parallax data from Simbad and Gaia and other sources to actually plot where these structures are in your image. And then I could also do, like HR diagrams of the stars that you find in your image. And I know Mike Cranfield recently did his HR diagram in PixInsight not too long ago as well. It's, again, because of the environment, it's just so much more limited in PixInsight. Like on mine, being able to have lines of constant diameter, any of these stars you can mouse over. It's going to tell you descriptions about those stars. You can click on them. It's going to take you to the Simbad website for those entries. Just a lot of cool stuff like that. I have my wave scale HDR and dark structure enhancing as well. There's the exoplanet and transit detector. This is really cool. In this particular example here, I don't know if anybody does any exoplanet hunting, but the tools previously to me implementing this, you pretty much had to select your target star and then select five to six other stars of similar brightness for an ensemble. And then it would compare that target star to the ensemble of stars to judge how its brightness is changing over the course of your imaging. Well, I figured, why not have the computer do that for all the stars? It could take every star as a target star. For each one of those stars, determine the 6 to 15 closest in brightness stars for an ensemble and build it out for every single star in your image. That way, you'll know you're not taking one star and checking it out and checking out another star. So it does it all at the same time. It'll highlight ones that are beyond a certain threshold that you set for you to further investigate. Like this particular star here, you can see over the course of the imaging, it kind of got brighter and then dimmer. And from here, I have a button to actually query the test information, and it pulled down the test data for this particular star as well. And it is a variable star. And what really caught my attention is up here in the test data, when it was actually doing one of its flares, looks very similar to the shape here. And, it's just when you're exploring this kind of scientific data in your own image and being able to pull down professional data to look for similar structures and stuff to make sure that your data is actually, reading real stuff. And I thought that was just really cool, getting that created in SAS Pro. There's actually a whole exoplanet hunter group now on my Discord where they're a bunch of citizen scientists that are writing real scientific papers for their discoveries now. They've discovered some new transiting binaries. They have some hot Jupiter candidates, and these are all new to the literature. They're not been discovered at all. And I'll do a little name dropping. Even Scott Manley from YouTube hopped on the Discord, and he's part of the exoplanet group now because he just got his hands on a small robotic telescope and just wanted to join the citizen science of it all. So I thought that was really cool. I kind of geeked out when he showed up. Um, I have planetary stacking in SetiAstroPro now as well. And depending on what OS you are, you may be limited to the different planetary stacking software out there. And a lot of the time, you end up using 3 or 4 different types of software, anyways, trying to get your planets stacked and processed from pip to AutoStacker to then maybe over to Registax or WaveSharp and then over into IMPPG. You could do all that in SAS Pro now. From aligning them, stacking them, you could even blink all of them. And then once you get your final stack, you could run them through multi-scale decomposition, which is like Registax wavelet sharpening, except way more robust. And curves is a full curves utility in SAS Pro, so you could do all those weird tricks that you were doing in IMPPG to do like an inverted solar disk with right side up prominences and all that stuff. You could just do in SAS Pro. And then I've recently implemented 3D viewing. So for planets and things like that, you could actually model them completely and have a 3D model of your planet with your data on it. But for nebula and stuff, you could do things like pseudo surfaces. So I don't know if anybody's really good at crossing their eyes, but if you want to try right now, try crossing your eyes so these two images merge together, and you should be able to see the Eagle Nebula have depth to it, where the dark clouds are kind of closer to you, and the bright nebula is like down in there, inside all the dark structure. I'll give it a second to see if anybody can do it. Maybe it's good I don't have my webcam on. You'd all see me crossing my eyes like looking pretty crazy over here. And we could go back to that. I could show other examples too. And then just so much more we could talk about. There's like a texture and clarity tool that you'd find in like Photoshop or Affinity. I have an AstroBin exporter, which is a huge time saver. This is one of those things, even if you're going to be a die-in-the-wool PixInsight person and do all your processing in PixInsight, get SAS Pro just for the AstroBin exporter, because you could literally load your folder of lights and it's going to parse out all that header data for you. So you could just copy and paste the CSV data right into AstroBin. So it does all your acquisition details for you, which is a huge time saver. I have What's in My Sky, which is a targeting and planning tool. I have a fits header modifier. For the vast majority of the time, you're never going to have to modify your fits header. But those rare times where you're like, you do got to modify something in your fits header, this thing comes in so much handy. It's possible to do it in other software, but it's always a nightmare and it's clunky. this one you could do a one-off or do a batch of a whole bunch of your files or whatever the case may be. I have like focal plane analysis tools where it looks for tilt and orientation of your stars so you can get your spacing to your corrector more proper. Full with half max mapping, all sorts of stuff in there. So that's just kind of some of the more stuff that's in there too that I didn't really have a dedicated slide for or anything. So I think I'll take a breath now, and if I don't know how you wanted to proceed from here.
Could you maybe give us a demo, or did you prefer anything to like demo you using SetiAstroPro? Like,
Yeah. So here's SetiAstroPro. I guess maybe I should say um, where you can get this stuff. So my website SetiAstro.com under PixInsight scripts for those with PixInsight. This is where you get the link for your repository. It'll be right here. This is the URL you copy to the repository, and that's going to allow PixInsight to download all the scripts for you. Under Astro programs, I have Cosmic Clarity, which is my neural net-based sharpening, denoising, satellite trail removal, super resolution, and star removal programs. And you can, where it says initial download, that's where you're going to want to get it. There's a folder here. And then also under Astro programs, I have SetiAstro Suite Pro. And it tells you how to download it here is going to be your normal like installable thing. So this will have an installer to install it on your system. I also have like practice data. I have other ways of installing it too. For a little more tech savvy people, you could do like a pip install SetiAstro Suite Pro. Or if you really want the latest and greatest, you can run it directly off the GitHub source code. And I have a video on walking you through how to set that up step by step. So even if you're not very computer savvy, you should still be able to follow those steps and do it. I have, let's see here. And then on GitHub for SetiAstro Suite Pro as well, I have a wiki. So it has a bunch of different things in here, how the layout is, different functions, and importantly, then how to, if you want to do some of those other more advanced ways of running SetiAstro Suite Pro, how to do it for like Windows or Mac OS. So that's there as well. I also have a Discord with dedicated channels for troubleshooting issues, right? There's a Mac OS channel, there's a Linux channel, there's a No One Likes Bugs channel if you find a bug. And then there's just general like imaging and showcasing, astrophotography discussions, just a whole bunch of stuff on the Discord too. And I think we're up to like 2,000 people on Discord. It's a very active community. So even if I'm not there, if you have a question, chances are somebody knows the answer and they're gonna answer you right away. So that's available as well. So this is SetiAstro Suite Pro. When you first download it, you're probably going to probably have a lot of panels up as well. Let me just open up some of these. So there's like File Explorer, depending on what images you have up. There's a console status. There's a system log. There's a header viewer, depending on which image you're selected. It'll have header data. There's even other ones too, like a layers panel. So you could do layers like you would do in Photoshop or GIMP or Affinity. And then there's a really important one is a command search. And the command search, since you're probably not going to be familiar with what all these icons are or where to find anything, it's my entire thing is searchable, uh, which is something I wish PixInsight would have had. So you could just start typing like stretch, and it's going to come up display stretch, hyperbolic stretch, star stretch, statistical stretch, right? It's just going to give you everything in there. Even if you don't know where to save, right? There's a save as, save project. So you can just start typing in the thing you're trying to do, and it'll help direct you. If you don't know where blink is, you could just start typing in blink or green if you want to use like SCNR or something, right? So those are just some ways to help you, especially initially navigate. Much like PixInsight, you can drag these things off and make shortcuts on your desktop here. You could edit the presets that are saved in them. Um, and then you could even do things like drag and drop to apply them directly. So, if you just want to drop extract luminance, it'll extract the luminance for you. Things like that. So those are all in there. I also have view and function bundles, which are the equivalent to image containers and process containers in PixInsight. So you can fully automate your processing in here as well, and it's fully scriptable. So I do start out with a couple sample scripts that'll be in here for you, just to know how to do scripting. But I think we have 17 user created scripts already. Everything from those new Verilux things to folder cleanups to um, the serial pre-processing mono color. Those pre-processing scripts, they've been ported over as well. So just a lot of stuff with that. Um, Something else that people, for whatever reason, have a hard time finding right away is the auto stretch. So if you do have a linear image, let me find a linear image. If you do have a linear image, uh, they have a hard time finding auto stretch. Again, there's the command thing. I just call it display stretch here. So you click display stretch. You could even like press the keyboard letter A, and it's going to do the stretch as well and toggle that back and forth. Um, and then there's a shortcut cheat sheet that's built in here too. So pretty much all the keyboard shortcuts and different things you could do in here. There's a little cheat sheet for you as well. So I guess yeah, let's I'll just kind of overview kind of some of the stuff here. It's laid out um like any program. You have menus up here. There's a file menu where you got your normal like open, save as, save your project. There's like recent images, recent projects, things like that. You can like double click the background to just open something. You could drag and drop stuff into here to open them. Under edit, there's undo, redo, convert mono to RGB, swap R&B channels. Functions, these are all the functions. So these are kind of like what PixInsight would have as processes. They're just kind of those one or two preset kind of needed things in order to do something. But I also have a bunch of other things like my blemish blasters in here. Um, there's curves like you've seen, hyperbolic stretching, halo be gone, linear fit, pedestal removal, just a bunch of different processes in here. Then I have a bunch of smart tools. Now these are all the ones that use a neural net. So most people just say AI tools. There's an aberration corrector that Ricardo Alahiri had created. So this is like the equivalent of BlurX correct only. I have my own cosmic clarity. which I didn't load on this laptop yet. Hold on. Which has sharpen, denoise. You could run both sharpen and denoise or super resolution. So this would be like the equivalent of the sharpening for BlurX and then the denoising as well. You could see it as stellar and non-stellar for sharpen. Denoise is luminance and color. There's also satellite trail removals. So this can actually be set up to even monitor an input folder. So if you have SetiAstroPro running on like a mini PC on your telescope, you could have it monitor your acquisition folder as it's pulling data down from the telescope after each exposure. It could analyze the image and remove the satellite trails for you as they're coming in. So that's a cool one. There's Graxpert, right? If you're doing Graxpert stuff, remove the gradient or denoise is underneath there since those are both neural nets. And then remove stars as well, StarNet or my own Cosmic Clarity Dark Star. There's none of the RC Astro stuff yet. I can't say too much, but I will say that they will not be locked away in PixInsight forever. I'll just leave it at that. And then I have a bunch of tools in here. These are more complex items that may require multiple images or more information from you than just a simple function, right? So like blink comparator, you're loading in images and looking at metrics and doing things like that. This is where like perfect palette picker lives. I have narrowband normalization. This is fairly new. I worked with Bill Blanchin to make sure I was reproducing his mask correctly from the PixInsight narrowband normalization. So that's what this is. It's the same thing as in PixInsight, except I do have a couple other little niceties in here. You could do a linear fit while it's already inside here. There's a background neutralization with gradient descent. And so a couple other niceties I've added in here. I also have links to like Bill's YouTube channel or Mike Cranfield's website directly from here to if you want to go help support those individuals, which were the creators of the PixInsight one. Selective color correction is a great one. You can even do things like shift click on anything in the image, and it's going to put where that color is. And you could even like see where that mask is going to be, and you could directly manipulate the colors in your image based on that. And for everything in here, I have a YouTube video covering pretty much everything. I'm just trying to give you guys some highlights. Like multi-scale decomposition is a really good one. In PixInsight, they have like two different ones: multi-scale median transform and multi-scale linear transform. This is kind of taken the best of both of those into a single tool. So it is completely reversible, like the multi-scale linear, but also can have mu sigma thresholding and a few other really nice items in here that really just take it to that next level. And then a bunch of normal things. I got geometry tools, flip, rotate, arbitrary rotate, rescale, debayer, things like that. My star stuff, this is all the heavyweight tools. This is like my stacking suite, planetary stacker, mosaic master, live stacking, exoplanet detector. So pretty much anything, if it needed stars to do aligning or manipulation of, I kind of put them all in here. But this is now where the planetary stacker and planetary projection live as well. Masks are super easy in SetiAstroPro. Like if you want to create a mask, you could just create a mask super fast and apply it. I mean, there's not a whole lot more you gotta do than that. And then you could, open curves. And if you just, it's only going to affect the masked area. So unlike PixInsight, masks in here are super easy, and there's a bunch of options, from just a binary mask, range selection, lightness, chrominess, star masks. So you could do colored masks directly in here. So a lot of good things with masks. What's in my image in sky? Again, what's in my image is a lot more advanced in here. You can see that the object types are, just a lot more and more well defined. I have minor planets and comets, a database in here where you could automatically download the catalogs, search for those asteroids or comets directly in your image. Just a lot more things in here. Like I said, I have the 3D distance modeling and the HR diagrams in here. What's in my sky is a pretty nice one. You put in the date you want to observe and the time you want your target to transit. Because some of us got trees or something. The way let's say you want your target transiting at 10 o'clock at night, and you only want to look at sharpless cataloged objects. You can press it. It's going to give you all the sharpless cataloged objects. It's going to tell you how many minutes before or after the transit you are, how many degrees away from the moon you are, what type of object it is, how big it is. And then for other ones, like if NGC is here, if it has alternate names. What's really nice about what's in my sky is if you double click any of these things, it's going to open up Astrobin and search for that object. And that may help you determine whether or not you want to image that object. So in this case, NGC 2227, there's no images of it. It looks like some people had them just because that part of the sky was in the image. So it's a really easy way to find objects where nobody else has actually imaged the darn things. If you want to be the first one to get an image of that kind of object out there. Let's see. We talked about scripts, the header modifier, and miscellaneous. This is the really nice one with the Astrobin exporter. So, like, let's say here's my Andromeda Lights folder. It's just going to take all of them in here. Here's all the dates. It has it all by the actual filters. You can manage your filter IDs in here. I have downloaded, and by downloaded, I mean pretty much manually had to copy all of them across. But here's all the different IDs that Astrobin uses for all these different filters. You can also click the question mark, and it's going to take you to Astrobin to search for yourself. But the really nice thing is down here, if you click copy CSV, this is the thing you actually paste into Astrobin when you're trying to put in all your acquisition data, and it's all done for you. It has the dates, the filters, your exposures, right? All that information it's looking for is in there. So within essentially one click, right? You select your folder and then click copy, and you're done. Huge time saver for anybody using Astrobin. And like I said, there's also no, this isn't a fits file, but there's header modifiers. Let me see if I got a fits here. Do I have a solved one? For there's a batch rename from fits, which I think is really cool. You can scan a folder. It's going to be able to find your all your fits files in there, and then it's going to pull up all the available fits keywords in there, and you could actually build out file names for all your different files if you so choose. So you could have um, a lot of the time maybe you want to add the exposure length to your file name or something like that. This allows you to do that really really rapidly for a whole slug of files at once. Just another thing, you may not ever need it, but when you do need it, it's really nice to have at your fingertips like that. The History Explorer is really fun. So let's just manipulate this Eagle nebula here really really fast, just so I can show you the History Explorer. So I'm just gonna run, yeah, let's just run statistical stretch on it, and then I don't know, let's do a little bit of curves, and then let's open up wave scale HDR, and we'll look at the preview on this quick. Great. Apply to document. And then, so here's our image now. And that was just a couple clicks. This isn't no denoising or anything, right? So this is pretty down and dirty. But now in History Explorer, this allows you to look at any old step and also compare to the current. So you can go ahead and then move this and see how that old step looked to your current view. And it may help you be like, oh, I really messed that step up. Let me undo it and fiddle with it a little bit better. It's just a different way instead of having to like click undo and redo a couple times, especially if you have to undo a couple times and then go all the way back. This allows you to skip, multiple steps in your history and just kind of see how your processing is coming along. Um, Shortcuts. This is if you have a bunch of shortcuts on your canvas here, you can go ahead and export them all and then import them all. So maybe you have a bunch of icon processes you like to use for narrowband processing. You could save all those for narrowband processing. Then you could have a whole bunch of different ones with different presets saved for broadband processing, or whatever the case may be. Um, some basic view stuff, right? Like you cascade all your views, things like that. One of the nice things in here as well is, let me open up two of these. You can link these views. So if you mouse over this little guy here, it's going to tell you the different things you could actually do with it. But you can go ahead and link these views just like PixInsight has that link ability, which is really helpful. You could also make duplicate views and all sorts of stuff in here. Just a ton of different things that's available. Even like putting on your astrometric grid and things like that. So lot going on in SetiAstroPro. I mean, I didn't even open any of the stacking stuff, but just recently I added 3D modeling and projecting. So like this is a case where I added galaxy polar projection, where you can take your galaxy and essentially put an ellipse around the galaxy, and it's going to project the galaxy looking top down then. So you could see what it actually looks like if you can get above it looking straight down on the galaxy. So I thought that was just a really cool thing. And then, like I said, there's a whole bunch of these other tools now as well where you could do these projections and see the nebula more in 3D, right? This is a pseudo surface to give you an idea of the actual like 3D structure of things. And it's only pseudo because we don't in a nebula you can't actually get the distance data very well in there. So that's just kind of just a fun little thing. But for things like planets, you can absolutely um, model those. Saturn needs its own modeling, but you could do all sorts of things with it. So for Saturn, you gotta make sure you could fit the object in here. If anybody's used like WinJupis or Jupos for modeling planets, it's very much kind of that same feel you're going to notice to get it like this. But once you're done, uh, and tell it to generate, it's going to ask if you want to save it. You can if you do or not. It's up to you if you want to save it. But um, from here, it's going to give you an actual 3D projection of Saturn now with your data. So this is the data from that image projected now onto an annulus and the center sphere. So you could actually go ahead and look at the poles of these planets and flip them around and really look at them. And and it's your data too, which I think is cool. That so it's not like some kind of simulation, right? This is your data mapped onto this to do the viewing of it. So lots of lots of stuff in here. Um, yeah, and then like I said, just huge amount of other things: plate solving, stellar alignment, RGB alignment, mosaics. Um, you name it, it's in here somewhere. All right, I've been talking for an hour. Larry, what you got?
Oh, thanks, Frank. This is I'm amazed at what you've developed here. I wonder what you do in your spare time. Um, uh,
uh, Answer bug questions in Discord.
I can
What I
imagine.
do.
I can imagine. I mean, this is incredible. It's amazingly powerful. Um, so I can only thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I'd like to throw it open to everyone if they've got any particular questions. If you want to unmute yourself or put them in the chat, now would be a good
Oh,
time.
I will also say um, my YouTube site. I have now hundreds of videos. Um, so be sure to look at that. Like I said, almost every single function I have in here has a video about it. I have tutorials in here, science videos, different stuff, different aspects of astrophotography are in here. Some product reviews. So just a huge amount of stuff. Um, so it's definitely worth a quick search on my YouTube if you run across something and you don't know how to use it or whatever the case may be. Chances are I got a video about it, but by all means, hop in my Discord and just ask because, like I said, even if I'm not there, if I'm traveling or something, chances are somebody's going to have an answer for you and be super helpful about it.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. Anyone got any questions?
I got a question, Frank. Big fan. I watched all your videos on YouTube multiple times. I just want
Oh,
to see if you can walk us through, like, your thought process for like when you build a feature, right? Like, how much is it handwritten? Do you use AI? How do you go about designing this feature and somehow fitting it in this UI and everything?
yeah. Great question. And so I absolutely use AI. So starting starting all this, I knew a little Visual Basic. That's the amount of coding I knew. I had no JavaScript coding knowledge and I had no Python coding knowledge. So absolutely, I use AI, and let me see if I got it up. One moment. And you're asking about the actual process, and I can show you that. So right now, I'm still working on the 3D projection stuff, and I'm adding more ways about modeling the nebula in an interactive 3D mode. So this is actually my computer at the house. I remote into it when I'm traveling for work, like I'm doing right now. And essentially on one monitor, I have my chat with ChatGPT. What I'm trying to do, if I'm running into errors, I told it in this case, um, like I need full drop and replacements for these snippets of code based on the previous error we had. And so I gave it the snippets of code, and ChatGPT is really good about just typing rapidly, which is amazing, right? So it's just going to be able to type all this stuff out for me super fast with the changes we discussed, and it'll allow me to then copy and paste them back into my coding in here, and then I can run it and see if I get any errors, play with the code, and this is all in the dev branch of GitHub. So when I'm done messing with it, I can go ahead and uh, update the dev branch in GitHub, because I actually got a couple collaborators now that also go around and poke in there and stuff too, which is great because they fix minor things here and there or do some really nice optimizations. The one guy did all the translations. So just a lot of cool stuff like that. And then once I get the dev branch to where I like it, where I got some new features in there, maybe some bugs worked out. And a lot of it comes from Discord or from email, like, hey, I ran into this error when I tried to do this process, or whatever the case may be. I can get all those things fixed and then push it to the main branch and then compile them. So this is Windows. I do the installer compiling on Windows. While I'm here, I have two different Linux running at the same time, virtual machines on my Windows desktop. So there's actually three OSs running on that particular one. And then I also have two Mac Minis, an Apple Silicon one and a Mac OS one, that I also utilize because Macs are terrible like that, and the code for the Apple Silicon one won't work with Intel Mac. So um, that's the only reason I have any Macs at all. I'll let everybody know that I am not a Mac guy. I bought those Mac Minis used on eBay for the sole purpose of compiling SetiAstro Suite.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that in one of your videos.
Yeah, yep. So that's my process, and you could see how big SetiAstroPro has actually grown now. The entry for it is here, but all these files here are all the different modules for SetiAstro. All those tools and functions are all separate things in here. And then there's a whole bunch of other operational kind of things for previews and graphics and scripts and all these different mix-ins for like the menus and the toolbars and the updating and all those different things. And then all the icons and stuff are in here too. So every icon that you see in there, I have to have in the code as well for it to call and look up and grab. So I don't know. Maybe
No,
that
that's
didn't
good.
answer your
That's
question.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, I was curious, like the rate at which you are developing features. I am just
Yeah.
surprised that you can churn out so many features in such a short time. And I can't finish any project in a decent amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, a big part of that is because I know, like I said, I'm a science and math nerd. I know the underlying physics, theory, and everything for all this stuff.
Hmm.
I just don't know how to code.
Right.
So ChatGPT knows how to code, but it's not the best at understanding, you just can't say it, build me a planetary stacker. It's not going to be able to do that for you.
Right.
You gotta walk it through what tools you need to utilize in order to get to the end goal. But it types so fast and it knows the errors. So if you have an error, you could put that code back to it and say, no, we got this error with that, and it's going to be able to correct itself really rapidly. So it is definitely my partner in crime. It allows me to get the ideas that are in my head and all the knowledge I have into something useful for everybody. And then now that Discord's so big and people are running it directly from the source code right from GitHub, a lot of the time they'll be like, "Hey, this error happened," or "We'd like to see that the collective group out there,
Right.
we'd like this little feature. We'd like to see this on the menu." I can get that added, push it to GitHub. They could try it right then while I'm chatting with them and, see if it works or not, or if it solves the problem, or if it's what it's looking for. So a lot of this stuff now is getting very driven from the community, and I am a facilitator of change, I guess.
Right. Well, thanks for answering that question.
Yeah.
And thanks for all the great features. Amazing.
Yeah, like this one was a thing from a YouTube comment. Like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could use that same kind of idea and look down on a galaxy? I was like, absolutely.
Right.
And
Yeah. I
that's what
mean,
I
there are
that's what I
things
did last
here
night at the hotel.
I didn't know I wanted these until I saw these, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think what I'm hearing you say, Frank, is that you probably couldn't have done all of this in the amount of time that you have done it without really interacting in this sort of intimate loop with the AI.
Oh, absolutely not. No, and I've said that from the beginning, and I'm not ashamed of it one bit. I know some people don't like admitting to those kind of things, but I didn't know any of this coding language, right? Like, so I would absolutely not have been able to do any of this
Yep.
without being able to interact like
Yeah, I think I've picked a pretty good time to consider retiring.
that.
I'm going to be replaced by a robot. Well, that's awesome. Anyone else got any more questions for Frank? Sounds like a no. Well, Frank, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come and talk to us. This is amazing. It's knocked my socks off, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come to talk to us and about your all of this hard work that you've done. So I
Yeah. I mean, is there anything you guys wanted to see in any of this? For the most part, for those familiar with PixInsight, you could use SetiAstroPro with the same workflow.
yeah.
The tools might be called something a little bit different, but
Do you
I,
think
I,
there's a better workflow that SetiAstroPro facilitates?
there's tools in SetiAstroPro that don't exist in PixInsight, which do help post processing in your workflow.
Right.
Um, and that's probably the biggest difference. Also, I think the user interface is a little more user friendly over
Yep.
here than
Yep.
in PixInsight, which is a big help. And then even little things like the display stretch here, right? If you run STF in PixInsight, if you want to make that permanent, you got to drag that little blue triangle off to your histogram transform and then that thing over to the image, right? I thought that was stupid. So I had this here, make the display stretch permanent. That's it. That's all
Mm.
the more I had to do. Now it's stretched. So, um, just
That
just
alone is worth the price of entry.
I mean, just it's a bunch of those little things that just crush the user experience in PixInsight, right? That
No,
um,
it's hard to get a
could be
good
changed.
UI when
And
you have like so many features, right? So, and then when you keep adding things on top of what you already have, I don't know. At some point, you have to go back and clean up everything to make it look better, I guess. But just the sheer number of features here, they're all on icons,
yeah,
so it's easy to
and
get.
and some of the ones do have like extra stuff, like luminance. What luminance are you referring to? In PixInsight, you don't have an option, and there's a lot of different luminance definitions out there. So just a bunch of things like that. And even even other things like in the stacking is stacking for the most part. But like I said, I have image in here. There's a comet mode. I have a star trail mode. I have an option to split your dual band OSCs before integration. So where this is really comes in handy is if you have hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur oxygen dual band filters. This will split them all up and then be able to stack all the oxygen data together. So you only get one master oxygen from all the data from both filters
Oh,
instead of having two different ones, right?
I love
So,
that. I love that.
um, right. So like there's just some things in here that make it just a really powerful suite of tools. And then, like I said, there's planetary stacking now. I mean, I could probably run through a Jupiter one quick if I have a Jupiter. Let's see what's this one look like. Yeah, that'll be good. Um, and there's absolutely no planetary stacking in PixInsight, right? Um, oh, I should do a solar one too to show you like the curves for it. Um, but so it's just a lot of things. I spent a lot of time trying to make the user experience a little bit better because I'm also a user, right? I,
Yeah.
I don't know why I would make it difficult for me to use too. Um, and I'll be honest, there's some, very much like yourself, there's some software guys that have been in the business a long time in my Discord, and they'll call me out when something is just not user friendly, right? They're like, this is confusing for the user. And it's like, all right, well, then I need to change this thing. And I think that's some of the feedback that falls on deaf ears um, in the PixInsight forums, where
Yeah, I don't even think they have a feedback loop that's effective, right?
well, they have their forum, um,
Yeah, that's what I was
but
referring to.
I got a pretty bad taste in my mouth when I've been in there a couple different times trying to do some things like my the blind solver 2000 when I created that uh I was pretty much told from the developers, you don't need to do this, the users don't have the correct data, it's their fault, not our fault, don't even try to build that script. And I did anyways, right? So it's just stuff like that was really disheartening when I was trying to do stuff in PixInsight, and kind of honestly spurred me to create SetiAstroPro. So maybe I got them to thank. Um,
Yeah, that's a good thing.
but yeah, so I mean, just some of the stuff here. So we just stacked the Jupiter, and we can go ahead and just start trying to sharpen up some of the features on Jupiter here. And multi-scale decom or my multi-scale decomposition is just so good at doing this. Um, just a couple even little times here, we're going to have a pretty nice looking Jupiter here. And I'll just go fast. I'm not even going to worry about noise a whole lot at the moment. Um, So
Sweet.
yeah, here's a Jupiter, and this is where we started, right? So this was the master stack from Jupiter. Every planetary stack is going to be soft. That's part of the process. It allows you to do a lot more deconvolution and sharpening on it. And there's our Jupiter. And you could go right into I don't know, making a little 3D thing. You'd adjust the size of that and just tell it to go ahead and use it. And now here's our Jupiter, right? Like in 3D space from your data, right? So I think that's just I think that's just super cool to do. Um, I was gonna look at oh yeah, star or our sun. So let's do that really really quick, um, if we got time. Great. Um, and I'll do this quick just to show the different curves features in here, which I think is also really powerful. And a lot of the time, I know people would use for solar imaging IMPPG to do some of their layers and then some curves manipulations. But again, it's just not really necessary anymore if you have SAS Pro now. So yeah, like any stacking, this is on my laptop. I'm sorry, guys. It's got to run its process here for.
Oh, while it's running, there's a question on the chat.
Yeah, I can't read it. Somebody
Oh,
read it
yes.
out.
Someone said, do you have a backyard observatory or do you lug your scope out every night?
So I don't have an observatory and I don't lug it out every night. If I got some time when I'm home and it's going to be clear for a week or two or the weather doesn't look too bad, I do have a cover for my telescope, one of those 365 all-weather Astro telescope covers you could get. I forget who makes them. So I'll cover the scope up with that uh, in the morning while the sun's out, and then even if it's going to rain or something that day, it's fine. It's underneath there. I just let it sit, and then only if it's going to be bad weather or I'm on a work trip, then I'll lug it back in. But my setup with the 10-inch newt, all the equipment on it, I have 3 counterweights. The whole thing weighs like 110 pounds, so it's a bit to lug every morning. And I was like, I'm tired of this. I need to buy this cover, and so that's absolutely what I did. So yeah, nothing permanent, but I did buy a cover so I can keep it out longer. Yeah, so let's this is from a Quark Daystar, and this is good enough data. You could even like on a radius 1, just give it some goodness here. All right, so here's our sun, and what we could do. Let me make this nice and big for everybody. Like I said, under edit, I can convert mono to RGB. Now it's just a 3-channel RGB, which will allow us to colorize it. In curves, oh, before I want to do that, I'm actually just going to Control I to invert it. I could also click the invert button. So very much like other programs, Control I to invert. And now in curves, I'm going to set a weird point up here. And then I'm going to drop the white point way down here. I know it's crazy. And then I'm going to bring this down like this, because now we can go ahead and actually do what you would do in IMPPG. You would do this exact same kind of curve manipulation. And what that did is it inverted the prominences back right side up while the disk itself is inverted. So now we got a combo inverted and non-inverted image. And then if you ever want to colorize something mono, I'm just going to bring down the green. I'm going to bring the blue way down here. I'm I'm going to crank up the reds a little bit, apply it, and done.
Wow.
So, and the nice thing with curves too, I didn't do it. I should have. Whenever you get done doing all your fancy curves, you could save a preset, and then you could load it later from your custom ones. Like I had a solar eyes already saved in there. Um, I have a bunch of built-in curves as well. So just other niceties in there. And like I said, I have function and view bundles where you could load up a bunch of functions. Like we could have done all that in a function bundle and then had this sitting on the desktop that whole time and then just apply it and it would do the invert, apply the curves, apply the colorizing curves, and be done all in one go. So there's a lot of ways to automate SetiAstroPro as well.
That's amazing. Thanks, Frank. That's I know what I'm going to be using next time I process my images. I had
Yeah, and I encourage everybody to go ahead and hop on my Discord here. A lot of people just do it. Like this is a guy. This was his Jupiter. He has a really small scope. I think a 50 millimeter aperture, maybe a 60 millimeter aperture. And got a nice little Jupiter out about that. He's super excited. And then there's really fancy people that take some like crazy amazing images on here too that put all my stuff to shame. Um, but that's fine. The one guy started using one of these little headset deals
wow.
uh, for the 3D viewing from these stereo views that you can make in SetiAstroPro now, and so that's what he's using to view his stuff in 3D is just one of those little headsets. So just a lot of cool ideas that everybody comes up with and shares and um, discusses it. It's a great community. I recommend everybody hop on there just to be part of it. It's pretty amazing what's all kind of built up around. Um, I don't know what I thought was just a little hobby thing I was working on.
I think it may have crossed the red line on the little hobby thing.
Yeah, I think that went out the window a bit ago as well. Oh, and also with this, it's fully customizable. You could like drag these things wherever you want them. If you don't like the toolbars where they're at, you could put them all around. So you could make the whole landscape here in SAS Pro how you want it. So you're not stuck into when you first download it and how it looks. You can close those panels. You can move the panels. In fact, if you have like multiple monitors, you could drag these panels off onto a different monitor completely. And then the next time you open SetiAstroPro, that panel will still be on that monitor when it opens back up. So you could even have things sitting off to the side. Um, Even things like now I moved everything around. I can't find it. Um, like you could have multiple histograms open, and I know that was a big pain in the butt in PixInsight as well too. You could only have one histogram view going. So here you can have multiple histograms open at one time, or multiple. You can have multiple things for a lot of stuff open at the same time doing things. You're really, with very few exceptions, ever locked in where you can't like click something else if a other UI is open. Try to keep it so you could still do whatever you need to do, even with a UI being open, um, as long as it didn't break anything. Some things you do gotta respond to it. It won't let you do anything else while it's open, but almost everything you could have multiple stuff open, um, at the same time for the same thing. So and you can click around through them and stuff too. So you're really not limited by just one thing. You could open that thing on multiple stuff, like like I just showed with the histogram. Like you can have this one open, you can have this one open, you have this one open, and you can pull them off on a different monitor. If you have another monitor and you want all your histograms open on a different monitor during your processing and stuff, or your different views, you can go ahead and do that. Um, when you minimize stuff in SAS Pro, it goes to a little shelf. So you can go ahead and minimize them, and it goes to this little minimized view shelf. You could dock this if you want it, like docked at the bottom or something, if you want as well. So that's like, I know somebody's going to do it. They're going to minimize something and can't find it. It'll be in a little minimized view dock for you, and then if you expand it, um, it's going to be expanded, and the controls to unexpand it are way up in the upper right. So that's where those live. You can also do things like draw previews, manipulate the preview. Like if you just got a preview open and you just want to do curves on the preview, you could absolutely just do the curve on the preview. If you liked that, there's a button here to then apply that onto the full image as well. So now the full image has that curve, that exact curve done to it, which is really nice when you want to do just a thing on a preview. And if you liked it on the preview, then you could immediately do it to the full image by replaying the last action on the full image, or replaying whatever. It keeps a record of all the stuff you've done. So even doing things with previews and stuff is really nice in SAS Pro. That is less user friendly in other applications.
That's terrific. Really cool. All right. Does anyone have any more questions? Well, maybe we should let you go off and write some more code.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to bed now, but I'm going to finish the 3D nebula stuff tomorrow probably. So, and I guess that's the other thing. Don't be surprised if you get SAS Pro if you see like an update like every other day from me.
I've seen that. Yeah.
uh, I think I'm doing plenty of updates out there. So you're always gonna have new stuff coming, or if there's a little bug you report, chances are it's gonna get fixed within a day or two. So it's I think I have pretty good customer service for some free software. I'm just gonna say
Yeah, I think
that.
I think you do. Yeah, I had noticed that actually, like in a 24-hour period, I'd start up Pro again the next day, and it would say, "Oh, there's another version of it." I'm like, "How is he doing this? Where has he
Yeah.
got like offshored this, and he's got a thousand a thousand aliens writing code in some parallel universe or something like that, and you know, pushing it to GitHub through a wormhole." It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah, that's it. No, it's yeah, for the most part it's me, myself, and I, all three of me over here.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, I think we should let you go to your bed, Frank, but I just on behalf of everyone, I'd really like to thank you for not just for coming to talk to us, which we really appreciate, but I think over and above that, I think the amateur astrophotographer community globally actually owes you a huge thanks for all of the work that you've done here.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's just incredible, and I think I've become a convert. I'm gonna ask PixInsight for my money back.
I don't think you'll get it.
Yeah, I don't think I will either, but it's worth a try. Anyway, thanks so much, Frank. I really appreciate it, and I think we've all really enjoyed your talk. I'm kind of aghast at what your software is able to do. It really I think it beats anything out there that I've seen or tried. So thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And I think you've got a few more recruits tonight.
Well, awesome. Yep. Head over to SetiAstro.com, poke around, and hop on the Discord if you want to say hey.
Will do. Will do. All right. Thanks, Frank. I'm gonna stop the recording now.